Welcome everybody. I want to explain the experimental design for the investigation that we're doing this week. So, experimentation in science follows a predictable pattern. It doesn't have to begin or end in any one spot, but this is the sort of pattern that they follow. And in this class so far, we've begun with some observations. You've collected some information about the kinds of behaviors, group behaviors minnows can do. And the reason I asked you to do that is because I want to show you how scientists might test a question about the cause of behaviors. And this is the question that we are going to be testing in class. We're going to try to figure out if Schreckstoff causes disturbance behaviors in minnows. And some of you are like, what's Schreckstoff? I don't even know what that is. Schreckstoff is this chemical. It's found only in the skin cells of minnows. And when scientists isolated it, they didn't really know what it's for. It didn't seem to give the fish themselves any real advantage. It's only found in the skin cells. It doesn't leave the skin cells during the fish's normal life. So the idea was proposed that maybe when the minnows die or get eaten and the skin cells get crushed, the Schreckstoff goes into the water and serves as a smell that other minnows can use to know that one of their own has been attacked by a predator, right? Some fish came and ate it, or a bird or something. And then they can do some of the predator avoiding behaviors, the disturbance behaviors that you and I observed in class, right? So they have these group disturbance behaviors, like how close they are together and where they are in their environment, that might protect them. So scientists propose that perhaps this chemical is there not to help an individual, the fish, but rather to help the whole group. And that's why they have it. So we're going to test that idea. So to test that idea, we need to test minnows to see if they get disturbed by Schreckstoff, right? But to set up that experiment is not easy. There's lots of things that can disturb minnows. So me just coming up and dumping something into the tank, or me going and crushing a minnow in the tank, is going to disturb them. So how do we figure out if just this chemical in their cells disturbs the minnows and not accidentally test something else, right? So here's how I set it up. And I'm going to kind of walk you through my experimental design and some of the trouble I ran into when I was setting it up, to help give you some context for how you would set up an experiment if we could be together in class. And this is kind of what you would do if we were in class. So every time you go buy minnows from the store, these are just regular minnows you'd use to go fishing. Some of them die. I took the ones that died and I skinned them, which is really hard to do, skinning a little minnow. And I crushed up their skin cells, and then I mixed it with some of the water from the tank that the minnows are living in, right? The one that you've been watching the videos of. And the reason I pulled tank water to mix it with is because I know that the tank water on its own is not disturbing the minnows. Most of the time they're sitting in the tank, they're not disturbed, they're showing undisturbed behavior. So I know that the tank water is sort of neutral to them. I didn't want to use like tap water or some water source where if I added that water, it might on its own disturb them, because they might be like, this is new, and feel disturbed. So I mixed it with some tank water, then I filtered it so that all the little bits and stuff were gone, and what I was left with was basically a clear, slightly tinged liquid that I put well, originally I actually just took it in a cup and I went over and dumped it in the tank, but I noticed immediately just me walking over disturbed the minnows, so I was like, well, how am I supposed to know if they got disturbed by me dumping in the water, or if they were disturbed by me walking over? I couldn't tell. So the experiment didn't work. But then I had an idea, because in the tank, there's this little tube that carries air that bubbles up and it helps keep the water full of oxygen. So I thought if there was a way to get the Schreckstoff in through that tube, I might be able to get it into the tank from far away and never have the minnows know about it. And so that's what I did. And it worked. I used a syringe and I injected it into the tube that the air was flowing through, and then the air just pushed the liquid that I injected right into the tank. And I tried it first with just regular tank water to make sure that I could do this injection thing, and that didn't disturb the minnows. It didn't seem like it should have, but I wanted to make sure. So that was my control, and I injected with tank water. You'll see the results in a little bit. Then the second time that I did it, I injected it with the Schreckstoff and tank water mixture. And again, you'll see the results. So then I just kept track of the time, and I marked down, I'm going to ask you to mark down what the minnows did at specific time intervals along the way. And that was the experimental design. And we'll find out, before we added it and after we added it, is there a change in behavior? Because the only thing that's different is the Schreckstoff. So then if there is a change in behavior, then we have to say, well, the Schreckstoff does in fact cause these behaviors. All right, everybody, let's see the data.